My sons are 18 and they're at a crossroads right now, and they could easily sort of look back at their upbringing and like where they're coming from and where they're going, and they can definitely identify us from old to new, old world to new world.
Isn't it funny or strangely ironic that when we're new, the world is old, but when we get older, the world becomes new and newer? Like all these new things start happening as we get older. You know what I mean? Like the internet and broadband and the world becoming smaller and all that stuff. All this is a new paradigm to like a lot of older people, even myself included, and people younger than me. Like I didn't have the internet when I was 10, but I had it by the time I was 13. And it was just like this weird, place to navigate a whole new world, really.
It's showtime, folks.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of Into the Music. I got something that Andy wants.
If I had a dime, so I'd have a dime. So what have you got for me?
What do you take me for? I'm not cheap, whatever. It's a little more expensive than that.
Maybe you are a bit more expensive, but you certainly had a lecherous look about you when you proposed it. What have you got in store?
Yeah. 50 cents and the song is yours.
Okay, yeah. I could part with half a dollar, especially with inflation as it is.
So the Modern Lovers, do you know that band?
No, but the name kind of rings a bell, but I don't know. I don't believe I know them, Greg. No.
So I think there's a song that if I said it, I'm going to hold off until the other side. I think if I say the song, I think you'll be like, oh, I know the song.
Okay.
So yeah, the Modern Lovers, and there's a song called Old World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell either.
Okay.
So
I bequeath, taketh, and goeth, and check it outeth, and then let me knoweth what you think.
Okay. I willeth.
The old world may be dead, our parents can't understand, but I still have parents, and I still love the old world. Oh, I had a New York girlfriend, and she couldn't understand how I could still have parents and still love the old world. So I told her, I want to keep my place in the old world, and keep my place in the arcane, 'cause I still have parents and I still love the old world. Alright, I say old world, I say old world, I say, well, I see the 50s apartment house, bleak.
I want to touch on the bass. It's not in the forefront, but man, there's some nice stuff happening back there with the bass. I really like that. Nice rhythm section. All right, let's keep going.
In the morning sun, but I still love the 50s, and I still love the old world. I want to keep my place in the old world, I keep my place in the arcane, 'cause I still have parents, and I still love the old world. Alright.
really loved what the keys, and it sounds like keys and guitar are doing kind of in tandem there. That was nice. That was a little breath of fresh air. Let's take that back.
All right.
That organ, like the organ effect or whatever, kicks up even more right there. Oh, it's just so great. It's just so good.
I see the 50s apartment house. It's bleak in the 1970s sun, but I still love the 50s, and I still love the old world. I wanna keep my place in this old world, keep my place in the arcane knowledge, and still love the 50s, and still love the old world. Alright, now we say bye-bye, old world. Gotta help the new world. Oh, bye-bye.
Yeah, that looks to be it. Yeah, that was an interesting song. I think I understood the music more than the lyrics. I'm trying to reconcile what, like, I still love the 50s, but I still love the old world. Like, to me, they're almost one and the same. Like, the 50s are definitely very much like a thing of the past. So is the old world. So I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to Greg to get a better understanding of the lyrics on this. But the music was good. The music was really good. All right.
The Modern Lovers. What do you think?
This wasn't a mold breaker. Like, this was a conventional rock song to me. But I liked it. Also, I say conventional rock, I mean in sort of its song structure.
Yeah.
But its sound was almost, I wrote pre-punk or post-punk on my paper here, because it's one of the two, because it's not punk, but it's clearly either what came before it that inspired it, or sort of the post-punk movement where they kind of take the edge off the punkiness a little bit and lean into a little bit of new wavy type stuff.
Yeah.
Either way, it was punk adjacent, and that was the vibe I got off of it. I really liked the kind of semi-clean but semi-jangly guitar chord progression that kind of starts the song off and becomes the bedrock for the tune. But though I'm calling it the bedrock, that shouldn't discount the work of the rhythm section, which I think was really good. Like, when you're really synced into the tune, picking up the bass line behind the guitars and stuff was fine bass work. Drum rolls. I mean, it's so funny. Like, I went into it like acutely aware because I just watched one of your videos where you were harping on why there weren't enough drum rolls for a while, and then there were, and then all of a sudden I'm listening to this song and the drum rolls are sticking out to me. So I'm like, oh, he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job with the drum fills and stuff like that, filling some empty space. And drum fills are just great at transitioning from something like, we're going to this part into this part, and then and it carries you up in a flourish. And they did that in this tune. I was like, all right, good work.
Can I stop you there 1 second though? Just
sure.
favorite.
Sure.
Oh, cool. But no, because that like, I'm sure you can relate, right? As you listen to a song, because you've listened to so much music. Sometimes, like, it's almost reading a book or watching a movie or show. Sometimes we think, what might happen next, and we think, oh, oh, the guy's gonna get killed,
Mhm.
or that's gonna happen. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. And it's almost like that drum. Like, we kind of know enough where we can predict what is going to sound so great. So that's why
Yeah.
sometimes, like, when we don't get the drum rolls, we're like, wait a minute, and when we do get them, and it might be just simple, but just the fact that it happened, and it was so seamless, and it just moved into that, like you said, transition from the chorus into the next verse, or verse into the chorus, or whatever, a bridge. And
Mhm.
we're like, because it is funny, like, sometimes when I'm doing reactions, I feel like, like, am I making too much of a big deal about a drum roll or this and that? But sometimes it's like when it meets the expectations, that's like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's almost as
Yep.
though I'm writing the damn thing and it comes out. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm so proud of it.
Sometimes you don't even know it's your expectation until you don't hear it. And then you're like, wait a minute, there was something missing there. Like that should have had a drum roll. But you're right. Like
in Old English. Wait a minute.
Hold it a second.
But go ahead now. Your favorite thing.
Yeah. But my favorite part about the song was, okay, it's working up into the part, like we're 2/3 the way through the song. Here comes whatever lead is going to happen, right? Because that's sort of conventional rock music. But it was very single note, kind of asyncopatic, like it wasn't just like a fluid, and it was like moving like a weird chart or graph all over the place. And then it was not only, I started to realize that it wasn't just guitar, that there was like keys happening.
Yes.
And as well, and they were sort of working in tandem to make this disjointed but lovely sound occur. And then at the end of that, there are these like, I don't know if he switches the sound or it's the first time it really hit me, but the resonating organ notes that kind of like just sit still for a minute before it goes back into the next part of the song is just, that was kind of fun and unexpected. And I was like, well, that's an interesting way of drumming up a lead for a song. It's not cut and paste. It's not A to B. It was different. And I like that. And that's what made it my favorite part, I think, because it definitely raised my eyebrow.
Do you
Go
know
ahead.
who's actually playing keyboards, the organ?
I don't know. I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard the band, so I don't know who it is.
I might blow your socks off. I think I might blow your socks off on this. I think the Talking Heads, right?
I love the Talking Heads.
Jerry Haston is playing.
Okay. So this is is this before? This is before Talking Heads.
Yeah. Original member, I believe. Yeah.
There's a reference. I was going to get into the lyrics, but this is apropos to what you just said. I'm trying to figure out when the hell this is written when I'm listening to it, and I can tell that's not contemporary. Not that it sounds like old or antiquated or anything like that, but I could just tell by the sound.
It's 71.
And
he even says 19.
And he references the 70s.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was gonna say in the lyrics, I
the
remember
1971. Sounds almost like Iggy Pop a little bit, the way he sings that a little bit. Yeah.
So, he says 71 specifically, because I remember him saying like
I believe
a 1970s, something like that.
I had the lyrics just really quick. I had the lyrics pulled up because I want to go into that later, but let me. It's bleak in the 1970s, son.
Yes, that's
so maybe I'm mixing up knowing some from some.
That's
doing
that's
some
cool.
homework.
That's cool.
That's 1971, but yeah, he says 1970s, son. Yeah.
Yep. That's so when I heard that, I was like, okay, this is either written in the 70s, which is likely, or is written after the 70s, but about it. So I was like, when you said Talking Heads, now I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's awfully close. So this was just before that he took off with the talk. So to me, that screams this band didn't last long, or okay. It's one of those bands that precedes other bands or something like that.
One album, if you want to call it an album. There's actually some stories behind that, but I don't want that to stop you from anything else you need to say.
No. That was pretty much it. As far as the music goes, that was pretty much it was a good, but, and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but simple song. And it was great at what it wanted to be and at what it did, while not really breaking any molds for me. You know what I mean? But that doesn't take anything away from the song at all. In fact, some of my favorite songs are those that definitely color within the lines. They're just really well written. So the only thing that kind of stood out to me as like anomalous, or I really couldn't put my finger on it, was the lyrics, because they're talking about like the old world and sort of missing it, but he's also talking in one breath and then the next breath talking about the 1950s. And if this is like the 1970s, 20 years ago could be considered the old world or the old times or the way things used to be. But I don't really, I'm trying to wrap my head around what the gist is of the song or what he's trying to convey with the lyrics.
So I didn't find a lot, and I didn't really have time to really kind of go in and find out from other sites like, hey, the song's about this, or I think it's about that. What I sort of take it to be is, first off, you have to think about when the song was written. It was written like 1970, 71, right? And it's written by like a young guy. His name is Jonathan Richman, and born and raised, definitely raised in Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And so think about it, that the 60s, right? We just came out of Woodstock and came out of, and we're in the Vietnam War and protests and, and hippies, stuff like that. And so, and there's a lot of railing against the establishment, there's, like my generation, it's not your generation, it's my generation, and go F off and like that. So there's a lot of that, and I guess against the establishment and something that was, in the past. And so I'm just imagining that he's I take it like he's recognizing the time that he's in, right? And he's recognizing that he's a young guy and he's moving forward into the new world. He's coming from an old world where there's old thinking, archaic sort of thinking approaches, whatever, when it comes to politics and all that. And so I think there's that coming from, in the 70s, right? It's only 20 years earlier that like if you're a teenager, a young man, in 1970, you were a kid in the 50s, I remember my home, like as a kid growing up, I mean, I can actually right now vividly like place myself in my backyard, in my house, in my room, my hallway, down the road, everywhere. So, he's probably sort of referencing that too, that's part of the old world. And think about, again, 69, 70, 71, it's all about, screw that. It's all about, change, we're going to change the world. And I think his song is like, like, I know I got to move into the new world, but I don't want to diss the old world too. In one of the lines, he says, I love my parents, and I still love the old world, because he still associates his parents, his family, his upbringing with where he's coming from, where probably around that time, there was a lot of shitting on that. And he's saying, I love it. I still love the old world. I do know that I need to go forward, because then at the very end, he's like, okay, new world, here I come, ready. And if you picked up on that, and I know it's just one listen, because I kind of realized that after a few listens, it starts picking up pace. Right towards the end, it just starts to kind of move a little bit more, and I think it's like, okay, like now he's kind of, and he's like, all right, new world, here we come, because he's like, he knows that that's where he's going. He has to, but he made it clear, for a little while there, that, even though I'm going that way, I'm not shitting on my past. I still love my parents. I still love the old world. I still have those ties. Even talk about the 50s buildings, in the 1970s sun. I love that imagery of that, like, old, probably like, charcoal kind of buildings weathered from like, from outside and stuff like that over the years. But then the sun sort of, when it comes out and shines on that he still sees that almost like in a very sort of artistic sort of, looking at something beautiful, because that's still something that means something to him. I don't know. I get, that's why I'm giving you the song, that I think in the music, it's kind of simplistic. But I mean, the lyrics, along with, I just loved something about the music, they didn't make it too damn complicated.
Oh no, it was good music.
And yet it was well played. And I loved his voice. Like he's got a little Iggy Pop kind of voice, and it's everything. And I just thought, oh my God, in a very simple way, it grabbed me by the, there and here and everywhere. And I'm just like, whoa, and I loved it. And I go back to it and the music, and he puts me there every fucking time. I'm just like, I got 50s buildings and 1971, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just there. That is when you can do that, just do a song like that. Whoa. So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was like, your explanation makes all the sense in the world. And it's what I would defer to. But I think that like I was confused because I wasn't sure if he was trying to compare or draw a line between what was the old world in the 1950s. I was like, are they the same? Are they different? What? But I think they're kind of like the same. Like he's like, I remember the 50s. Times were simpler then. I think is kind of the gist of it, right? And now, coupled with being an adult, where nothing gets simpler as you get older, you know what I mean, and become an adult. And then the times, what was happening in the times with civil rights and wars in Vietnam and
Exactly.
corrupt
Exactly.
politics first really rearing their head in the public light with all the, the stuff surrounding, Watergate and all that kind of stuff that was to come in the 70s. It's just, I get it. You know what I mean? I get it more now. So that makes sense to me. That does make sense.
And that's a young guy, at that
Yeah.
time, he's like 21, I think. He's a young
Mhm.
guy. And he has that. I mean, he's even calling it the old world, the old world and the new world. I mean, just even look at it like that, like
Yeah.
my sons are 18 and they're at a crossroads right now. And they could easily sort of look back at their upbringing and like where they're coming from and where they're going. And they can definitely identify us from old to new, old world to new world.
Isn't it funny or strangely ironic that when we're new, the world is old, but when we get older, the world becomes new and newer? Like all these new
Yeah.
things start happening as we get older. You know what I mean? Like the internet and broadband and the world becoming smaller and all that stuff. All this is a new paradigm to like a lot of older people, even myself included, and people younger than me. Like I didn't have the internet when I was 10, but I had it by the time I was 13. And it was just like this weird, place to navigate, a whole new world, really. So it is just funny how when we look back, we're like, oh yeah, that was the old world when I was new, and this is the new world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just some background about the band and like that. So Jonathan Richman, guitar, sax, vocals. He was the songwriter, and I believe he's the main vocalist. And then you've got Jerry Haston, organist, the keyboards, and David Robinson, drummer, and Ernie Brooks, I think that's his name. And so when the band broke up, and they broke up after the first album, and so what's really interesting is that try to really get this right, because there's a lot of stuff going on, but Jonathan comes from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I think it was because of a girl, travels down to New York and really is to the music scene, is a big time fan of the Velvet Underground. And as he becomes his music career starts to kind of, he starts playing at clubs, he starts supporting the Velvet Underground in some of their gigs. So they're sort of trying to get their footing right in the music world with like playing live gigs. And Jonathan, they create these demos. Some time goes by, they're sort of like doing all these live gigs. Then they go out to LA. And that's important because that's where Jonathan starts to kind of transform. He's starting to really like it out there, and the sort of like the mellow, sort of laid back vibe. And that starts to seep into his music. And so he's writing all this new stuff, and it's more like mellow and all that. And so as they get back into the studio in LA to finally record the damn album, he wants to record all his new stuff. And the band is like, okay, we're cool with that, but let's record the stuff that you wrote like 2 or 3 years ago. It's great stuff. Let's get that. That's what we always going to do. So that was a clashing of like, Richmond felt like he had moved beyond that, and he was in a different sort of, atmosphere, and like he didn't want to do that. So it actually wound up, leading to, end of the band. They broke up in 74. So they never got that first album off the ground on their own. It was only after they broke up in 76 when the record companies were like, hey man, we're just going to take these demos and we're going to produce and we're going to release the album. And that's what they did. So there's this song I said on the other side. If I say a song, you probably will know it. Roadrunner. Dun, 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 Roadrunner. Bam, 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 dun, 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 bam, 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 bam,
I don't think
bam,
so. As
bam,
much as I'd
bam.
love to let you keep
Roadrunner.
going.
Yeah. Right. Just goodbye.
No, keep going, Greg. Something's coming to me here.
Half hour later. Really, Andy? You still don't know?
Yeah. Come on, stand up and do it. Stand up. I think that might. No, but I will go check it out. I will go check it out. I mean, if it's something that I'll probably have to hear it, and then maybe it'll dawn on me when I actually hear the tune. But yeah, that doesn't sound too familiar to me.
And it's so funny though.
But that's a wild story, man. That's a wild story. And
Yeah.
how did that go over with the band when the like record come? If you know, I mean, if you don't,
I don't
cool.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like I said, so Jerry joins Talking Heads. David Robinson, the drummer, co-founds the Cause. So these guys like definitely had careers after the Modern Lovers. It's a really interesting band. They should have like never broke up, and they should have. But that's just sometimes things shake out like that. Well, I'm gonna sign us off and say, Andy, I'm so glad you actually listened to the song. Thank you so much.
So glad you actually recommended it to me.
Cool. And folks out there who I don't know, folks out there who are watching this who love this band, who just love that album. I mean, say what you want, that it was, they took the demos and they released it as an album and stuff like that. But I mean, it got critical reception. I mean, there's still a following today that just looks at that album. That's amazing, a groundbreaker. It was 71. It's before punk really took over and stuff like that. Definitely, I think it was big time influencer, on bands and songs and stuff like that we heard later on. But yeah. So anyway, so folks out there, what do you think? Everything I just said, you're full of crap. Yeah, you're right. Here's my thoughts. Please put them in the comments. And with that said, like the song, hit the like button if you liked it. Join us if you haven't yet already, and we'll see you in the next episode of Into the Music.
Into the Music.